About 20 years ago, there was a short video clip that transfixed America and the world, which was a man called Mr. George Holliday filmed from his apartment window the beating of a man called Rodney King, an African-American, who was beaten by the Los Angeles Police Department. And this video clip sparked widespread riots and a national debate on police brutality and discrimination in the US. And it was the impetus for the creation of Witness almost 20 years ago, where we asked the question, what if every human rights worker had a camera in their hand and they could choose to film the untold stories and visual evidence of human rights abuses, and they could choose to be in the wrong place at the right time? Well, today, as we all know, many of those human rights workers have those cameras in their hand, and they're not the only ones that have cameras in their hand. Concerned citizens, digital activists, and perpetrators also have cameras. And so this increase in access to video and mobile technology and the ease of sharing this content online creates a lot of opportunities and challenges in the human rights sphere. Opportunities, of course, to increase the potential of using video to create systemic change, and challenges, and it's always more interesting to focus on the challenges, and so that's what I'll do. I'll focus on two main challenges. One is around consent and safety, and the other one is around dignity and privacy. And so when I'm talking about consent and safety, I'm talking about both those who are filming, but for the most part, people who are also being filmed. And it's extremely hard to obtain consent from people that are being filmed, and there's a lot of risk of retaliation and repercussions for human rights defenders and others filming, and for survivors and witnesses to abuses. I want to show some footage here. So you're watching some footage from Burma. So here are people filming an event as it unfolds and sharing that event online. And intelligence agents in Burma used photos and videos basically to identify participants and bystanders and arrest them and give them prison sentences up to terms of life. Here we're looking at footage from Iran, where the Iranian government also used screenshots from video footage that they found on YouTube, uploaded it to a website, and showed these pictures of people in the demonstrations to crowdsource identification of these people, leading to many arrests. But a lot of the footage we see is not necessarily events as they unfold, but it's stories of human rights survivors. And I want to show some footage here of a woman called Napopo who lives in eastern Burma and who's spoken out on camera at the risk of imprisonment, execution, and displacement. Did she know when she was speaking that over 1 million people would see her video on YouTube? Did she have any idea that perhaps the local military commanders who she's speaking out against would actually see her footage? It's important for people who are filming to inform the people that they're filming of the risks. In the case of Napopo, the important thing is to let her know what is the worst case scenario, which is that those military commanders could see that footage. Now, I know many of you might be thinking it's extremely challenging to get consent, especially if you're filming events and abuses as they unfold. But we certainly have a responsibility to raise awareness of the risks of filming for these people on the ground and to get consent where possible. I want to move to another challenge, which is around dignity and privacy. One of the core human rights values is around the integrity and dignity of the individual, especially people who survive human rights abuses. And there are concerns around the psychological re-victimization of survivors and around the preservation of human dignity. And we see this especially when it comes to graphic violations, violations of violent abuse or even sexual assault. That's when we see that translating most into the loss of dignity and integrity. And so I want to show you also a clip from Egypt, where the Egyptian police filmed on a cell phone abuses that they committed against Cairo bus drivers. And this footage, along with much more graphic footage, including the sodomization of another bus driver, was used to humiliate these victims by sharing this footage widely with other drivers, and also by using it to intimidate people if they did not fall in line with police control. Now, there's a triple humiliation here. There's the humiliation of the assault itself, there's the humiliation of the assault being filmed as it happens, and there's also the humiliation of the preservation and widespread circulation of those images. At the same time, this footage was actually used for positive effect. Two Egyptian bloggers and journalists circulated this footage online, connecting local and international audiences, and it created a public outcry where the government of Egypt initially denied these allegations, and then the power of this footage and the widespread circulation forced them to pay attention. And actually, in the first case, in two of the leaked videos, there was the arrest and prosecution of police officers. So it's complicated, this footage being used often to deny someone their integrity, at the same time sometimes being used for positive outcomes. And so we need to work, and one of the reasons it's interesting for me to talk to you as an audience, because I think many of you together can think about how can we create online and participatory cultures where we can balance that need for a right to integrity and privacy with the freedom of expression, and where we can also measure the urgency of exposing human rights abuses with protecting the safety and security of human rights defenders and of survivors. This clock is reminding me that I'm at the Oscars and music is about to start. But I have a couple of minutes to focus on what are potential solutions to dealing with these challenges. And I think there are three types of solutions. One solution is technology, another solution, normative frameworks, and a third one is around the content of the video. And I'll say more about each of these. Around technology, here are some suggestions. Could we create applications where someone who is uploading video can immediately blur the faces of someone being filmed or disguise the voices? What about a mobile prompt for consent as you're filming and uploading? And also, we should think about ways where we can remove and embed more metadata around video, providing more context. Why is it shot? Who is shooting it? What is happening? How can we create a space for action once we have seen the footage? And how can we think about maybe, for example, removing IP addresses, again, providing perhaps further safety to those who are uploading? The second area is around the normative framework. Could we create, or how can we create, a shared code of ethics between online communities, documentary communities, and human rights communities, where we have a shared code around how we treat the use and the sharing of human rights video? Could we, how do we raise awareness on the issues of consent and safety, particularly in the human rights hotspots and for this new generation of digital natives? And the final area of possible practical solutions is around content. How can we provide more curation of the videos that provide context and action? And could we have, for example, a housekeeping seal of approval for video that meets certain criteria? I think it's important. Clearly, there are opportunities in the increase of human rights video for creating concrete and systemic change. But the goal is, how do we ensure that that human rights footage creates voice, action, and change, rather than enabling empathy or social control, state repression, and public humiliation? And I look forward to hearing many of the ideas that many of you have to engage in this important area. Thank you.